We'll continue to bring you developments from inside the UN Security Council, but there's been a barrage of information, so we thought we'd put together a little timeline of events for you to be able to make sense of all of the events since the start of events in the Middle East. On the 7th of October, as you'll see there, Hamas launching the surprise attack on Israel at its southern border. It was the start of a week-long Jewish festival called Sukkot, and a day after the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War.
And on the 11th of October, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins his Middle East tour to show support for Israel. And he's also at the same time calling for moral clarity, also pledging solidarity with Israel.
On the 18th of October, U.S. President Joe Biden touches down in Israel, affirming his support for that country. And at the same time, that other meeting that was supposed to take place between other leaders in the Middle East was then cancelled.
On the 19th of October, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak visiting Israel in show of support, saying that Israel has got the right to defend itself, but also saying that the people in Gaza are suffering and supplies should be restored immediately.
And he'd actually also met Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas in Egypt, part of his tour to try and get to the bottom of the conflict. Then on the 20th, 14 days in, still no aid permitted into Gaza from Egypt's Rafah border, and we would have seen condemnation in the UN Security Council, not only for that to be escalated and to be urgent, but also to ensure that the volumes of what is traveling across that border point gets into the places that need it most.
And let's continue then to look at that, because this issue of aid is quite important. Some have said, even the humanitarian organizations on the ground, that this is a drop in the ocean. People are desperate, electricity cut off, supplies cut off, and it does look like a desperate situation is unfolding. But let's give you a sense of how the area is laid out. The Gaza Strip, just 41 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide.
And you can see there, tiny spot to the south of Tel Aviv, which is an area many of you might easily recognize. That's what the Gaza Strip actually represents. When we're talking about conflict or war, that's the scale of what we're talking about. The population there, in this very tight spot, 41 kilometers long, 10 kilometers wide, 2.3 million people.
And you think about the fact that Egypt occupying Gaza for 19 years, Israel withdrawing from Gaza in 2005. The focus is back again to the Gaza Strip as we continue to see and hear desperate calls for help, desperate calls for supplies, desperate calls for this conflict to end.
All right, and then let's share with you this final graphic, which is really, again, painting a picture in some detail around how the conflict has escalated. Turkey sending two cargo planes to Egypt carrying medical equipment and supplies for Gaza.
And more aid trucks expected to enter Gaza. That is the United Nations. And also, of course, the first of limited supplies of aid arriving on Saturday, about 20 trucks, as we were told.
And then aid distributed to displaced Gazans at the Khan Yunis shelter. But the humanitarian situation in that area tonight, and again in the United Nations Security Council, being highlighted in terms of the immediate needs, and also some discussion around the quality of the aid that has been allowed through and whether it is enough.